So Denmark and Australia are pretty different in everything. I actually can't tell you one thing that's exactly the same, but that's another thing that makes exchange so special. I think the biggest difference is probably school, everyday school life. Like I said, we don't have uniforms in Denmark, but in Australia every school has a uniform. Daily life in Denmark is so much more relaxed. I feel like Danish people are just stress-free all the time. It's kind of just the way of life. But in Australia, there's kind of people on edge and stressing and busy all around all the time. Maybe that's just because I'm from such a big city, but you don't really see people just casually walking through the shops like you would do here. Like, people are always in a rush, always in a hurry, and that's never the case really in Denmark. Also, the sizes of properties, like Denmark has a lot of land but not so many people, so there's a lot of in the town there's not so much space for houses, but outside there's like kilometers of space, and there's so much space for houses and stuff like that, and farms. But in Australia it's a bit in between. We have small houses on big pieces of land unless you move out of the main part of the city, and then you have big houses on big pieces of land. But generally you don't have like big houses on small land like you would in Denmark. So that's another difference. And this is from the view from where I used to live. I've lived in a lot of houses. This is from Colorado Plateau, I think, and you can just see the water, and yeah, see, that's basically what it's like all over my area in Sydney. And this is my mum and my brother driving. I think that's where we were before, Colorado Plateau. And yeah, the view, it's really nice. I'm really lucky where I live. Another thing that you really notice when you come to Denmark, especially for a city girl like me, I really love to shop. And in Denmark, you don't really have big shopping centres. Like in Australia, I live a 15-minute walk from a really huge shopping centre, and that's basically where I spend all my time. In that shopping centre there's a gym, there's a movie theatre, there's food shops, there's clothes shops, there's perfume shops, there's everything you can think of. Anything in your wildest dreams you could think of would probably be at my shopping centre. It's just my local shopping centre. But comparison to Denmark, I find that it's more streets and with shops around. But it's really cool because in Denmark you have so many old buildings and so many classic buildings and classic streets and stuff like that that you can't compare to Australia, because we don't. It's such a new country in comparison to Denmark that we don't have anything as special as that. Like, you guys have churches from the Viking ages, which I just find so cool. Actually, yesterday I went to Skane and I went to this church and it was half covered in sand, and you could only see the tower of the church because it's such an old church. And that's just, you wouldn't know it if there wasn't any signs or it wasn't like a public place that people could see, because it was just like natural landscape and then this tower of a church. So that's really cool. Like, you wouldn't get anything like that in Australia. Especially my part of Australia, because before the harbour bridge was built, it took a really long time to get where I live. So there's no houses before like the 1930s, and if there are, you're pretty lucky to have it. It's not very common. But that also makes where I live quite unique, because it's a very up and coming area. There's lots of new buildings happening and all that kind of stuff. In comparison to Denmark, I don't think you really see so many areas getting refurbished and renewed that often, because you want to keep the heritage and the specialness of such old buildings. And I think especially in Aalborg, which I go a lot, there are a lot of, like, if you just look up at the buildings, you can see so much, and it's so special just walking on the street and seeing such cool things. I just have a real passion for design, and I think that's so special to be able to see all of that, which you could never do in Australia. But it was a good day. You could see there's no clouds in the sky. My brother's filming this. Another difference is we drive on the other side. So see, he's sitting in the seat where normally the driver would be in Denmark. And I forgot when I watched it the first time, I was like, hold on a second, is my mom filming this whilst driving? And then I realized, oh wait, it's the other side. So being young in Australia is quite different from being young in Denmark as well. For example, our school days go from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And in younger school, it goes from 9 o'clock till like 2:30. So it's pretty lucky we don't have to wake up as early as the Danish kids have to for an 8 o'clock start. But we also do a lot of different like after school activities. For example, we do a lot of Australian football or rugby as we call it. Whereas in Denmark, I think you guys play a lot more football or soccer like we would call it in Australia. And also handball. We don't have any handball at all in Australia. Actually, I'd never heard of handball as a sport before I came to Denmark, and it was really funny. The first thing that the first Dane I met when I got off the plane, he was like, "Oh, have you heard about the Danish handball games going on right now?" And I thought that was so funny because the first person I met from Denmark, the first thing he talked about was handball. So that just really represents how much Danes love handball. Also, we do a lot more netball for the girls. That's a very huge sport, which Denmark, I don't think you guys know about. And it's kind of like basketball, except you're not allowed to move with the ball, so it's a little bit different. And only girls play that in Australia. I think boys can, but not so many do. We also have a lot or more like things we do in our spare time. Like for example, I go shopping a lot with my friends, and I go to the movies, and I go out for lunch and stuff like that, which I think is another big difference from Denmark because you guys don't really eat out. Like for example, I go out for breakfast with my mum all the time, and a lot of the time as well we have takeaway for dinner, but I'm not talking like McDonald's or something like that. We just have a lot of like different foods from different countries that we can buy, like for example Chinese or Indian food or something like that. And that's a very social thing that we have in Australia that not many Danes do, like going out for lunch or something like that. I have a job in Australia. Actually, I do work at McDonald's, which is a pretty popular job for people my age just to earn some spare money. But I used to coach tennis. I used to play a lot of tennis, and I was a coach in the summer holidays for little kids. And that was pretty fun, and I got some nice sun when I did that. Generally after school, I'll go with my friends to the mall, and we'll go to the gym or we'll go shopping or something like that, just to hang out and have fun together. And a lot of the time, some of my friends go out for breakfast in the morning. I don't so much because I don't like waking up early, but occasionally we will, just to have some social time before we go to school, because in our school actually we are all in different classes. Like you change classes every single hour, so you're not with the same people all the time, and it's nice just to see your friends outside of school before you have different people all day. Oh yeah, Princess Mary. Yeah, we hear a lot on the TV actually about the Danish royal family, like if they're traveling somewhere, or when Princess Mary had her kids, because she is from Tasmania. I think Australia is very proud of her for becoming such a huge personality and becoming such a household name. I think it's really special that Australia can be like, oh yeah, we have royalty, even though we don't really, because she is Danish now. But we have a lot about the like if there's news about Princess Mary, sometimes she'll be on the cover of our magazines, like our social magazines or something like that, which is pretty funny. Because most of the times we just have like Australian celebrities who aren't that big, but then when we have royalty, it's like, well, Princess Mary's on the cover of Women's Weekly or something like that. Yeah, I was really little when she was when she was getting married and stuff, so I don't know so much. Actually, she was born the day after me.
det synes jeg, det er meget sjovt. Jeg har ikke rigtig prøvet det før, men jeg var meget positiv overrasket over, hvordan det var. Og sådan, at det også havde en lidt anden opførsel. Sådan.
Det synes jeg er rigtig, rigtig spændende, fordi at, altså, så bliver man sådan, man skal snakke engelsk med hende, og at man får bare udviklet sit sprog rigtig meget. Og altså, også sådan at høre om, hvordan hendes kultur er over i Australien, det har også været rigtig spændende at høre om.